When I was in college, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do, but I did want to do something with computers. I had a friend when I was growing up who was really into computers, a software developer. He tried to teach me software, and I just couldn't get it. So I didn't think that developing software was what I wanted to do, but something involving computers. Eventually, I got an internship where I was tasked with doing really menial, boring tasks on the computer. And so I used some of the programming skills that I had gotten from some of my classes to write software to automate some of those tasks. And and that still wasn't like hadn't convinced me that I wanted to be a software developer. It was like still just a thing that I did to make my job less boring. Um, it wasn't until I started working at a company called Domo as an intern, and I got introduced to JavaScript that I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. I actually really like this.
Hey everyone, welcome to BBoJS number 4. And this session, I have someone who I already know to be a great developer, but for some reason, I haven't thought about him as a businessman, which is weird because he's been doing a lot of businesses for a while. So here we have Kent C. Dodds of the Epic stack of Epic Web. Is an educator and a lot of things which is going to tell us about in a bit. I'm excited because I've known him for a while, like I said, but I haven't had the opportunity to talk to him about business, which is why I'm excited about this one. So how you doing, Kent?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much, Kelvin, for having me on here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Really lovely having you here. So let's start with the old intro. So tell us who Kent Sidot is for this audience. Maybe they have not seen your previous video with me or anything else in the web you've done. So just tell us who Kent Sidot is, and you're going to wrap up with your fun facts because I like fun facts.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I'll think of a fun fact.
Mm,
So, Um, yeah, I live in Utah in the United States. I'm married and have 5 kids, and
mhm.
I graduated with a degree in a master's degree in information systems from Brigham Young University back in 2014. So I've been a professional in the industry. Yeah, this is a decade now.
Mm,
And yeah, my business, what I've been doing on the side at the beginning and full time in the last several years has been education. And I teach people how to build excellent web applications. And primarily, I sell access to videos that work or help people work through workshops that I produce. I also travel all over the world, and I'll do in-person workshops a little bit, but my primary source of income is the self-paced workshops that I list for sale online. And yeah, my fun fact about me is that actually it's about both of us. We both can do a backflip, so that's fun.
Oh yes, yes, that's one. I was just telling a friend. I think yesterday was like you started your backflip thing trend that I jumped on. I think was it last year or something that we
Yeah,
did that.
it
Even
must have been last year, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Then Mark as well. So I think the three of us at the devs I know flip. So awesome
Uh-huh.
fact. Yeah. So thank you. So I did not know. See, like that's why I like this sort of session. I did not know you have like master degrees in information technology. Not at all. Like, but it's fun to know that now. So it all makes sense because of the quality of the things you do. So I want to go a little bit back before business, Kent. Before you being an entrepreneur, can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Like, you did say you've have like a decade of web dev or an education mix. So let's do origin story. Like, how did you get started? You know, being a professional, especially in building software.
Yeah, one second. There's an airplane coming over. I'm going to close my window.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you can pick that up sometimes when I'm talking. um,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, what got me started into
Mhm.
technology and
Yeah.
computers and things. So, when I was in college, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do, but I did want to do something with computers. I had a friend when I was growing up who was really into computers, a software developer. He tried to teach me software, and I just couldn't get it. So I didn't think that developing software was what I wanted to do, but something involving computers. At some point, I landed in the information systems track for my degree, and still wasn't sure I wanted to develop software. But I was on track to do something with business and computers. Eventually, I got an internship where I was tasked with doing really menial, boring tasks on the computer. And so I used some of the programming skills that I had gotten from some of my classes to write software to automate some of those tasks. And and that still wasn't like hadn't convinced me that I wanted to be a software developer. It was like still just a thing that I did to make my job less boring. Um, it wasn't until I started working at a company called Domo as an intern, and I got introduced to JavaScript that I was like, oh, this is actually kind of fun. I actually really like this, and started spending a lot more time developing software. So, and getting into the teaching side of things started pretty soon after that, and I can talk a little bit more about that if you're interested. But that's how I got into getting developing software as a career.
Yeah. One would never have thought that you find it hard grasping software in the beginning because you're so not like you're so good at it. Like I've read almost like everything you write, even just on your blog and how you explain stuff and also the snippets you put online. Like I wouldn't have guessed that. It's actually interesting to know. And so, but we'll get into like your background in education in a little bit, but I'm kind of curious. So how was it that JavaScript was able to break that ceiling for you to like building stuff and not anything else you've tried before?
Yeah, I there's probably a factor of timing in there, because I was doing Java before, and the jobs that I had, I used Java as a tool for accomplishing the actual job that I had. And so it was not like the core part of what I was doing. But I ended up like spending a lot of time writing software and just like finding excuses. So I think in the back of my head, I probably was thinking like, "Wow, this is a lot of fun." But I really was just fighting against that because I had people telling me that software developers are a dime a dozen. It's like not a really great and lucrative path forward for you. And like just lots of influences on me, and also my prior experience. Like when I was early in my college days, I took some programming classes that I just thought were really boring, and it was because we were doing very low level stuff, data structures and algorithms, and I just couldn't care less about data structures and algorithms. And so I was just fighting against it because I had this idea in my mind of what software development really was. Um, and so, yeah, I kind of started opening up to it a little bit more when I found practical things to do with Java. And then when I started working with JavaScript, and I just really appreciated a couple of things about JavaScript, but one of them was just like how easy it is to write a JavaScript program and distribute it for people. My Java programs, I had just an enormously difficult time getting an exe that like somebody could install and all of that. And then with JavaScript, it's just like, here's a website, you just throw it up on here, or even just like an index HTML file that I could share with people. It was just so much easier to distribute. And then the syntax is just much more terse, and I really appreciated that. And of course, at the time, this would have been I was still in school. I think this was like 2012, maybe 2013, that I was doing this, and so like TypeScript wasn't really much of a thing back then. And so like part of me was like, yeah, this is nice. I don't have to worry about types and, and everything. now I couldn't live without them. But it also, like, even TypeScript is more terse than Java. And so I really appreciated that as well. Like, it just I was able to move faster. And then on top of that, like, I was getting better and more productive too. And so that I think a lot of things kind of came together where I discovered JavaScript at about the same time that I was finally accepting the fact that I wanted to be a software developer.
Perfect timing then. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it was, I was listening to DHH in his was it his keynote or like one of the, I think it was his interview with Prime, and he was just saying that the he likes the abstraction and the complexity of building on the web, and I feel you also do too, and myself as well, because I don't think I would be a very great game developer or a
Mhm.
systems engineer or something, but I sort of like the abstraction, the level of way we build on the web sort of like makes sense. And then JavaScript, of course, the language is just, it's my bread and butter. I can't. I've looked at other code. I'm like, of course, I can understand it decently, but if I'm going to write something, JavaScript, it has to be JavaScript. It's just so good
Mhm.
to me, right? And I guess to you as well. So
Mhm.
that's awesome. So yeah, let's go back a little bit and talk about your education journey, like, because I feel from what you've said, you probably started off as an engineer, right? And then you started doing this education. So how did it start for you? Because for me, I know it was blogging. I started with articles, but like, how did it start for you? And how did you know? How do you know you're good at it? Because we know you're good at it. Like, you're really good at it. Like, how did you get started? Like, being a good educator without any formal training, so to speak.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I never received any formal training on how to be an
mm,
educator, that's for sure.
mhm,
But
mm.
I definitely didn't start being a good educator. That said, I have been an educator since I was 3, because when I was even very, very young, I was expected to speak in front of my peers in church. And at the beginning days, my mom would, like, come up with me and whisper in my ear what to say. Of course, like, a 3-year-old isn't gonna know what to say, but eventually, as a teenager, I was speaking in front of the congregation of hundreds of people. And then I went on a mission for 2 years to in the Missouri Independence area, like Kansas City, that area. And so, like, teaching individuals, also speaking in front of congregations. And so it like teaching is just an ingrained part of what I've done my whole life. Um, and teaching software is unique, but, like, yeah, the basis is there. And in fact, about half of my family, both my siblings and my extended family, are educators in one way or another. And in fact, most of those are formally trained with degrees in education. And so yeah, and then my dad was an entrepreneur, had his own business, and so I ended up being both educator and entrepreneur. So yeah, anyway, uh, as far as, like, teaching software goes, it just was a very natural thing for me. Once I started learning JavaScript and I learned AngularJS, then I had a coworker at Domo. His name's Dave Geddes, who put together a workshop on AngularJS, and I thought, this workshop is kind of cool. Like, I liked taking this workshop. I think it'd be cool to give that workshop. And so I asked him if I could use his material. He said I could, and so I reached out to my classmates and I said, like, I'm gonna be teaching AngularJS to anybody who wants to come. We'll just be in the computer lab, and you can come and I'll teach you. And I knew that nobody would want to come to an extra class, and so I also I had met Firebase at the first NG-Conf and developed a relationship with them, and so they sponsored my workshop, like $100 for pizza and stuff, so I could get people to come. And I don't honestly, it's hard for me to understand why I did that. I really don't know why I did that. Nobody asked for it. It seemed interesting and fun to me. And I actually recorded that and streamed it to YouTube. And honestly, it's one of my most viewed videos on my YouTube still, is my AngularJS workshop that I gave when I was at school. So people can go to my YouTube and just scroll back. It's on there. That would have been back in like 2013 or something. But yeah, so anyway, it wasn't until I had graduated. Well, so actually, like I also, when I was still in school, I heard about meetups and decided, hey, that sounds kind of fun and interesting. And so I saw that they were looking for a speaker for the first meetup I was going to, and I thought, oh, that'd be cool. I could speak about this library that I've been working on, and so I volunteered to speak at the first meetup I ever went to. And then I also I really enjoyed going to NGConf, and I thought it'd be cool to go to other conferences, but I don't have the money to go to other conferences. So if I speak, then they'll pay for me to go, and or they'll pay my way at least. And so then I started applying to speak at conferences, and then I continued to speak at meetups. And one of the meetup talks that I gave was live streamed, and somebody who watched it, John Lindquist, the creator of egghead.io, he saw that and he thought that would be a really cool course. And so he reached out to me and asked me to make a course. And through a lot of effort and redos, I eventually put together a video course that they were happy with, and that got published on there. And that actually was the first time I got paid for any of the education I did ever. And it actually started paying for my mortgage for my house. And actually, from that time forward, I've always paid my mortgage with education funds, which is like pretty significant. So I that was about the time that I thought, okay, this isn't just for fun anymore. Like I can actually use this as a means for improving my financial situation as well. So anyway, that's the story of how I got into education. And I feel like I've just been getting better and better the more that I do it over the years.
Yes, you have been. We could testify to that.
I hope
Eh,
so.
yeah, you have. So you started off with workshop, which is really, I think it's, in the level of difficulty for teaching people, workshop could be like up there as one of the hardest. Like, aside from writing, tweeting, threads, and all those kind of like level.
Mhm.
You started off like with an Angular JS workshop off the bat is
Well, I
interesting.
mean, I was tweeting little
Hmm.
things, and I gave like presentations
Yeah.
that were assignments in school and stuff. But yeah, when and I can't remember if the workshop came before the meetup talk or not,
Hmm.
but it all kind of happened all at
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, but it's super because I sort of transitioned from written education. Okay, like back in school, I was like more of, so I teach my peers, like we do like lessons and all, then also a couple of I wouldn't call them workshop, but it's like IT like we do here, where like a 3 months where you get to learn practical skills in computer science because I did study that in school. So I was like
Hmm.
an instructor then. But like yeah, so that was like my first experience teaching people. So I've always liked to teach. But that's interesting. And then for you, the the course on Heged, like let's talk about it a little bit. How was it? Because that was your first paid um education. How did you go about like from the of course you've already gotten the idea because you did the talk, but of course it was your first, like how did that go for you? Everything, like the entire process.
Yeah, yeah. So John messaged me and said, "Hey, I think that it'd be cool to have you as an instructor on Egghead." They were just starting to bring on new instructors. I think I was instructor like 12 or something like that, maybe 15, something like that. And first of all, I was like shocked, like, oh man, that's huge. This like there are a lot of people I respect, who think Egghead is just the bomb. And so I was super stoked about it. And they said, like, we'll give you all this equipment and everything. I actually met John because he's local here in Utah. And so I met up with John and we had lunch, and he gave me all of the equipment, and I brought it, got it set up at my home. and I recorded a video. Well, so like first I had to figure out what are the steps, that we're going to be going through, and Egghead courses are not like workshops because you don't really, at least though in those days, I don't know if they're any different now, but like you don't really think about or worry about the student having to do anything other than just watch the video. So I don't need to have like a setup for self-paced going through exercises or anything like that. So I just need to say, okay, in this step, here's what the code looks like when I start, and here's what it's going to look like when I'm done, and we'll just continue to do that until we get to the final product. And so I have, all right, here's where it starts, and that comes with all the prerequisites, and here's where the whole course is going to be finished. And then I just find a way to chop that into individual bite-sized pieces. And so that took a while. It's been a long time, so I can't tell you specifics on how long that all took. But I mean, it was summertime when he asked me to do this, and it was maybe 2 months later that I had the course published. So it really wasn't an enormous amount of time. Um, but I spent a lot of I spent many hours on it. I guess I should say, but yeah, it wasn't like for me. Launching something now is like it takes a year for me to launch something new. So like, because it's just a totally different experience. And typically I launch a bunch of workshops all at once. A single course, I could turn out a single course. In fact, I have turned out a single course in a day now with material that I already am familiar with and whatever. So anyway, at the time, yeah, it took many hours. And so I record the first video and I share it with them, and they give me all of these tips, like your screen size is wrong, or your font is too small, or like look at all of this space on the screen that is just wasted space, like make everything bigger and whatever, like just so many different things. And your microphone isn't connected quite right, or like the sound is bad, you normalized it wrong. It's just so many things. Or like you wasted a bunch of time just telling us this thing, and then you showed it to us when you could have just showed it to us first and then explained what you did. And like so many different teaching tips that I got from both John Lindquist and Joel Hooks. And so like I did it again, and they gave me more tips. I think I recorded that first video like 3 or 4 times before they're like, yeah, this one's good. And then I recorded the rest of them. I think it was probably like 15 videos for this course. Each one about 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes long. And yeah, and that was and then they like got some artwork put on it and launched it, sent it out to their list of subscribers. I was like, as far as Twitter is concerned, I was a nobody. I maybe had 1,000 people following me, probably less. Yeah, probably just a couple hundred. I wasn't very active on there. But yeah, managed to. I remember that first check. I'll never forget. It was $2,000 for that first check, and like your initial launch is always going to be the biggest that you get from anything, typically. And so like it was less than that later, but it was still enough to cover my mortgage for the until I could get my next course out. Which just blew my mind. I was thinking, yeah, okay, this will pay for lunch for a couple of days, but it was nothing like that. It was awesome.
That's amazing. It always feels good to get that first internet check. Like
Hmm.
I can still recall all the dollars from writing for different um publications like Smashing Magazine and the rest. It's always unreal. Like, okay, this thing I would have done, relatively for free, and then I get to pay to do it. It's just interesting. And yours was really more interesting because, like you say, you could pay your mortgage from it, and you weren't even expecting that much because, of course, I feel you would have done that course for free, but
Hmm.
you didn't know, yeah, that this was a proper business in here. So,
Yeah.
so speaking about business, when did you know? Because I know you worked at PayPal for a bit.
Mhm.
When did you know that I think this education thing might be my I could just set forth my path and quit the typical chasing the career ladder. And when did you know you could do that and just go full time being a creator? And making a living off it? And how was that experience for you?
Yeah, so I technically formed my business in like 2015. It's called Kent C. Dodds Tech LLC. It's pretty like nothing too fancy, and it was always just like a thing that I did on the side. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing, and I found excuses to educate one way or another on the side as I went. Um, and so I had like conferences I would go to, I'd give workshops. Um, and so I had a bunch of material that I had prepared in workshops for front end masters. Also, I started teaching for them. And what my plan was is basically, okay, I make a course on Egghead, I turn that into a workshop for front end masters. If I have a front end masters workshop, I turn that into a course for Egghead. And that was kind of my plan, was just to double dip on that stuff for, forever, while on the side while I worked at other companies. And so I prepared enough testing material about testing JavaScript that I thought, yeah, I'm gonna have like 6 or 7 workshops, or not workshops, but courses, Egghead courses. And so I reached out to Joel and I said, hey, just wanted to let you know that I've got all this material. I'm gonna start pumping out courses on Egghead about testing, like big time in the coming months. And he said, that sounds really interesting. How about we do this instead? We make you a special website just for you that you put your courses on, and people pay directly for that, for a license, for access to it, instead of making it something that they get on Egghead as part of their subscription. And I said, that sounds interesting. Let's try that. And so um, I was still working at PayPal during all this. I was the TC39 delegate for PayPal, and I was building. I was on the newly formed web infra team, like for the front end stuff, and I was having a great time. And then just working for many hours in the evenings, recording these videos. And then we launched in like I think November. We launched testing JavaScript, uh, and it exploded. My PayPal salary at the time was like 150,000 a year, plus like some bonuses and stocks and all that, whatever. And my launch for testing JavaScript earned me like $250,000. And I was just blown away that that was even possible. The next closest thing I'd ever done was my initial release of the Beginner's Guide to React on Egghead, earned me $40,000 one December, like I think the year before, maybe 2 years before. And I was like, oh man, what a ceiling! Like that's awesome. That it really is. Like that's sick. Um, but yeah, hitting $250,000 for a single launch of a single, like, I mean, it was a ton of work. Like I worked my rear end off, probably 80 hours a week for a couple months, with the full-time job and the education stuff. So it was a lot. But I was like, man, I'm making more than my PayPal salary on this side stuff. And I'd been making fine money on the side, all that time, but like launching this thing for the helped me realize that I can actually turn this into a full-time thing. I thought about it, but I didn't want to lose the security of having that full-time job. And at the time, I think I had 3 kids that I needed to take care of, and my wife as well. So my wife's full-time mom, so it's just my income. But yeah, launching that and earning enough or more than my PayPal salary. We were doing fine with just my PayPal salary, so I don't need all of this money. Like money is cool and stuff, but also my kids are getting older and they want to like hang out with their dad in the evenings, and so yeah, I decided to leave PayPal so that I could get some of my time back and just focus on the thing that I enjoyed doing more. So it wasn't really. A lot of people will have to take a leap of faith when they do something like this. Like I'm going to take my entrepreneurial journey, whatever. And I wouldn't say that I'm a risk averse person, but I'm a risk reducing person. I like to reduce the risk a lot. And so by the time I finally decided to go full time, it wasn't a risk at all. It was like an obvious next step. And that was the story of how I went into full time education.
Awesome stuff. I actually call that the risking yourself, because when you have to worry about money, especially when you want to do something like you love, it's sort of like a bummer because you got to pay the rent, you have a family. But if you can, like in your case, it was amazing being able to like move from like money wasn't really the issue. So they weren't like, okay, I need more money, but it was just like it was more like more freedom for you than more money. So it's superb. So like as much as possible, if you can, the risking yourself is just like the way to go. So you don't have to go through that valley of gloom of not knowing when your next money is gonna come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
like I'm also in a pretty privileged situation because I was able to spend time after hours working on stuff that could make me more money.
Mhm.
I know a lot of people don't have that luxury. They've got people they need to take care of, or their work just requires more of them than 40 hours a week or whatever. Um, they have physical things they need to deal with or whatever. So I'm it's not lost on me that I was very much in a privileged situation to be able to do that. But yeah, anything you can do to de-risk and
Yeah.
kind of do both at the same time. At least that's what I did, and it worked out really well for me.
Yeah, it sure did. It's really interesting hearing the figures because, like I said, I haven't seen Kent the businessman ever. And it's really cool hearing all this. It's amazing. It's very inspiring. Um, so yeah, what do you think makes a great educator? Because I think you're more than decently experienced, like because you've been doing this for a while, so you've learned a lot of nuances. Like, what do you think make a great educator, especially in the web dev space, which is there's definitely going to be not definitely. There are lots of courses, both free and paid, in the web dev space, written articles, and all. Like, from your experience, what does make a good educator?
You know, this is kind of related to a question that I get a lot from people
Mhm,
who are aspiring educators who ask,
mhm,
like, why would I create a course on React hooks when you already have one? Like it already exists. And my answer to that question is, I don't think at all about what already exists. That doesn't make a difference at all to me because unless I made one already, like I'm not going to make a workshop on React hooks because I already have one. It wouldn't make sense. But like other people had workshops on React and things, and I still made my own because I have a way of connecting with people that other people don't, and that's something that nobody can take away from me. Other people can also connect in their unique ways to other individuals as well, and so that's fine. But I just want anybody who's thinking about doing education to like consider you don't have to have something that's totally unique or like create a course that's totally unique. You can make one that already exists. That's fine. So anyway, as far as like what makes a good educator, I think it for me, I the most important thing or one of the most important things that I'm thinking about is how do I help people retain the knowledge that I'm giving them so that they can use it later. Um, and so I read this book called Make It Stick years ago that is just a phenomenal science-based, like research study-based book that's intentionally like more written toward the learner and telling the learner what they can do to make things stick. But it just gave so many really great bits of advice on what people can do to retain information. And I even emailed the authors and just asked them, okay, how do you apply this in my workshop scenario where I'm not like meeting with the students for a semester or whatever. And so they gave me some good ideas. And so like so much of the way that I teach now is informed by that and just like focused on helping people remember stuff so they don't have to look up my workshop material over and over again whenever as they're working through stuff, but they can like take it and use it and it's beneficial to them. And of course, like they can reference my stuff occasionally. The tools that you don't use get rusty and whatever. Um, but yeah, I think that being able to retain information is important. So a good educator is going to teach in a way that helps people retain the information they're learning. I think also a good educator is going to be one who really knows the stuff that they're trying to teach. And occasionally people will ask me questions about things that I don't have much experience with. And just because they're kind of interested in my take on something. And so I will always tell them what, like, I don't have a lot of experience with this, but here's what I think. Just because, like, I think a good educator doesn't feign experience. They don't try to teach something that they really have no business teaching. And this is why people say, like, when are you going to make a course on Next.js, or when are you going to make a course on Vue or whatever? And I just say that just won't happen. Like, you don't want me to teach you this stuff. Maybe you like the way that I teach, and so I can appreciate that you'd want somebody like me teaching in the way that I teaching those topics. But I don't have any level of experience to be very useful in those contexts. Now I can teach you React, and that's what EpicReact is all about, and then you can use that in a Next.js application. And I can teach you JavaScript, and that you can use that in the context of a Vue app. But yeah, so that's another important thing for me as an educator, is making sure that I actually know what I'm teaching you, and that I have like personal experience. And so one of the things that I was really concerned about when I left PayPal was that, like, I need to make sure I keep my skills sharp and relevant, even though I'm not working full time at a company anymore. And so I spend a bunch of time working on actual software products with actual users, so that I can validate the ideas that I'm having, because the technology evolves and changes over time. And so, yeah, I do have um, one product that has quite a few users regularly. Another that's not quite a product, like people don't pay for it, but I get tons and tons of users on that as well, like hundreds of thousands of users a month. Um, and then I've got ideas for other product. I have another product that nobody really knows about. I have one person who's paying for it, but I need to finish that one. But like, so I'm on the side, I'm just like validating my ideas with these different products. So that I think that's really important, that the educator actually really knows what they're doing, which is why you're not going to see me just doing like introductory this, that, and the other, because like that's all I can teach is the intro stuff. I'm going to build stuff the way that I build it, and then I'm gonna go really deep on that, and then I'm gonna teach you the deep stuff, as well as the intro stuff for that. But I'm not gonna teach you multiple ways of doing the same thing. It just, like, for me, um, it doesn't feel. I don't want to say it doesn't feel honest, because there are educators who do that, and I think it is just the way that they do it, and that's fine. But it wouldn't be true to the way that I think teaching should be done. So there.
Yeah.
There's like other things that make a good educator. I don't know. Probably the same things that make a good person. So like be nice and whatnot. But yeah, those are a couple of things that I think are important as an educator.
Love it, especially the fact of knowing the thing you're teaching. I think we had this conversation on X, is it maybe last year again or earlier this year, where I said, like, you're not a content creator because you and educator, because you're teaching from your experience, from the things you know. Because I have this, I know there's a place for content when you make content on, like, generic stuff or something, things that are new. But in terms of like things that are deep, I always prefer it comes from, like, okay, you've done this, right? You didn't just go read the docs. You're actually shipping something with this thing, with this knowledge you're trying to teach. And when you teach from that place, it always feels robust to me,
Hmm.
other than it just being generic, because I see a lot of it out there. And I'm like, you could tell that this person don't really is not strong with the knowledge they're trying to pass. It's just so, I don't know, maybe it's me, but just so obvious. I'll be like, nah, I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to have that, like, that low
Mm.
high level knowledge on stuff, and teach that in like a talk or different things like that. But when you're accepting money from somebody, then that's where I think that like you really need, or really whether you're accepting money or not, for me, it's important that people understand my level of experience with whatever it is I'm teaching. That's why when somebody asks me a question about GraphQL, I'll say, well, I did do some GraphQL at PayPal, but I'm not like super experienced with it. And now let me answer your question, just so that they have a good understanding of where this is coming from, and can add the proper amount of grains of salt with all of that.
True, 100%. Like, yeah, I again, I think it's level of taste, and in terms of the how deep you want to go, and for your style of courses and workshop, it's definitely better if it's not surface level, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I want people to be able to go deep and have a really true understanding of how things work under the hood. And that's why lots of my material, whenever I can, I try to say, okay, first, before we use this abstraction, we're going to build our own version of this abstraction. So I've built testing frameworks. I've built React Server Component Framework. I've built the testing library. We built a simple implementation of use state and use effect. And I just really like to say, let's build our own version of this, and then we'll understand it better. And so like that requires just a really deep understanding of how things work.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's awesome. So let's talk about a little bit on um your workshop and course platforms, because you did mention you have like stuff with like thousands of users, because those are the things that actually keep your skills relevant. So tell me about the evolution of your course and workshop platform, like, and how did it get to like its current state? Because I know you made it from scratch, right? Like, you're not using like a third party platform. So that sounds like an exciting. I have a little bit of experience making such, but not like a workshop platform, more like a course like salesguys.com. It's normal video stuff and all that. But let's talk about yours. Like, why, first of all, why didn't you go with something off the shelf? I mean, it could save you time building that. And so yeah.
Yeah. So to contextualize all of this, the the site for testingjavascript.com, starting back there, that was all built and maintained by the Egghead team. And so I just made the course material. The GitHub repos where the course material was, those were all mine. I recorded the videos and everything. And then the Egghead team created the site and managed support and everything, and distribution of the videos and stuff. And then that team branched out into a sister company called Skill Recordings. And now that's the team that I'm working with more directly. But it's all kind of under one umbrella sort of thing. Like we're still in the Egghead Slack where we're talking and stuff. But so when we're talking about the course platform, it's been custom since the very beginning. I've never used an off-the-shelf course platform before. And I've not had to dedicate much, if any, time at all to the platform where it's like, here's the homepage and here's where you pay with Stripe and whatever. Like, I've not done anything with all that. I defer to that team, and they take 40% of everything that I make, or all of the income goes to them, minus some expenses and stuff like that. So yeah, so that works out really well. That arrangement works out really well. So the part that I work on is the learning environment when students are learning. And with EpicReact, the first version, that was like a kind of a separate thing. So you'd go and you'd buy the access to the videos, you'd watch the videos on epicreact.dev, and then you would open up the workshop app locally to work through some of the exercises. And yeah, that was like the dividing line, is that learning environment versus epicreact.dev. So anything that was on epicreact.dev, that was the other team. So now things are kind of meshing a little bit more, because here now we're 4 years after that initial launch of EpicReact. I just launched V2. And with V2, I rewrote the workshop experience from scratch. And in fact, I actually rewrote it for the launch of Epic Web. The challenge with, or the way that it worked with EpicReact V1, it was just a create React app application, and I had just files, and you would open up the files and do some exercises in there. And I had it was pretty complicated how I had it all working together nicely so that I could display your MDX content, like some instructions and different things like that. But yeah, it was relatively limited. And so when I launched Epic Web, we're doing full stack stuff with Epic Web. And so I can't do a create React app thing. First of all, like nobody's using create React app anymore. But secondly, doing full stack stuff, we're doing backend and database and like authentication, all of this stuff. And so I needed a new learning environment. So I wrote it from scratch using Remix and basically the Epic stack. And yeah, and that was really awesome. So I also retrofitted it to work for the types of exercises we have for React, where it's just much smaller examples, just a file or a handful of files that are relevant for the exercise. And yeah, and so now the experience is entirely in the workshop app. You go to epicreact.dev to buy a license and get your account all set up, but then you spend the rest of the experience in the workshop application. The videos are embedded there. You log your device in. We get a token and to make authenticated requests for you. All of your progress is tracked in there as well. And so that's and actually here I'll pull it up right now. We've got 33 people using that application right now to learn, a variety of things. So we've got 2 people in advanced React APIs and 5 in React hooks, 20 in the fundamentals workshop, which makes sense because now 21 actually. I just launched that, launched V2, so most people are going to be in that first workshop. We've got one in the Build React Hooks tutorial that's free, and one in Getting Started with React, which is also free. Another one for people who are in the Full Stack Foundations, so that's part of Epic Web. So yeah, it's there are many people using it all at once. It's not like PayPal scale sort of experience like I had when I was over there at PayPal, but it is a pretty sophisticated piece of technology that integrates a lot of different moving pieces, runs locally on users' machines, like the server is running on their machine and everything. And there's also like deployed version that needs to support people who are viewing it there. And they're actually paying for it. So I have actual paying users, which is nice too. So anyway, that kind of hopefully contextualizes what the workshop app or what parts I'm responsible for and who's using it.
Awesome. I feel you're both like you have in the sense of the word that people are familiar with a SaaS, but the people who pay for your courses use the SaaS that you built. So you sort of have this because I like there was this little thing about course versus SaaS. I think you have in both and you've been able to do both. And having a software as complicated as you just described is no easy feat. And you're above average in both ways, like the software building and making great courses, which like I told you, I really can't wait to get my hands on EpicReact because most people for the most part I've been like a Vue person, but with my work now with the borrowing stack, I have to know Vue, React, and Svelte. And if I'm going to learn React really well outside the docs, after going through the docs and scouring it through, I definitely like you are the best person to learn it from. So I can't wait to go on EpicReact V2. So
Thank you.
thank you for making really great software and really great educational content. It's amazing. So we're gonna go through a couple of this has been really swell, but we're gonna go through some more questions a little. Then we go to the audience questions, and then we ask like the closing curtain questions. So I see you've been adopting AI for your work. So my experience with adopting AI has been, so at first with ChatGPT, I was like, okay, no, not ChatGPT. I think it goes way back to Copilot. Copilot, right? From by
Hmm.
GitHub. I didn't want to touch it because I just did not like the idea of not writing my code myself. I feel like, okay, it's gonna probably, because I like understanding the code that I write. I see code like pros as well because I need to understand it. Even though it's working, I have to understand it because I just don't feel good not understanding it. Then
Hmm.
with ChatGPT, of course, I did double. I came in late because I was like, oh well, let everyone else try it out, and I'll be there. And I tried it. I liked it. It was good. Then I started using Claude AI on their web app just to, like, research for my stuff and also generate some code, like just mostly like more like a robot doc for me, because I just like, it's like talking to another developer and just like bouncing off ideas. Okay, what's the best way to do this and all that. And then I tried, what's it? Cursor, yes, the editor. It was good, but I had to uninstall it because he was writing too much of my code. And I was like, no, 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 no. I feel at this rate, I'll probably, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of, hey, I want like a function to do XYZ. Then you just ask it and it just gave it to you. It worked the first try. You don't really, you just want to move on to the next stage, but you didn't spend time to understand it. And I was like, okay, I have to take a step back. So I deleted the Cursor app, and then I was still using the one on the web, but I was writing on VS Code like purely. And then if I have like a roadblock, I just go ask Claude AI on the web. So how has it been for you? That's been my journey, like, because I know you use it a lot and you've actually, I think you've spoken about it online as well. But how has it been for you, like the adoption of AI and being an educator and stuff?
Yeah. I was a pretty early user of
Mm-hmm.
Copilot, and it was pretty game changing for me. Like it's not perfect, and it's frustrating sometimes, but it's only been getting better since then. Um, so and I think that it's a valuable skill as an engineer to know how to use these tools efficiently, which is actually why I made a free tutorial on how I do it on Epic Web. So if you go to Epic Web, there's a number of tutorials, and one of them is how I use AI in my software development. But yeah, so I used Copilot for a long time. I recorded all of the Epic web videos with Copilot enabled, because I also think if it's such an important skill for us to learn how to use AI in our learning or in our development, we should probably practice it when we're learning as well. And like, I think what the skill is not only how to prompt it efficiently, but also how to review the code that it generates as well to make sure that it's what we need. So anyway, then I switched from Copilot to Codium because I thought that it just did a better job. It was faster, a number of other things. And then I switched from Codium to Super Maven, which is insanely fast. Like, just, I don't even know how they do it. It's so fast. And then people just kept telling me I needed to try Cursor. And Cursor is a fork of VS Code, but they forked it because they needed to add a bunch of UX features that you just don't get with the APIs that VS Code exposes. And so, like, that was part of the thing that bothered me, was that it was a fork of VS Code. And I was worried that I would have to like learn a new editor, but that wasn't the case at all. Like, it just transferred all my plugins. It was no big deal. It took like all 5 minutes or less. Um, and yeah, so with Cursor, the UX is just so much better, and that's why I've stuck with Cursor, is just because the UX is better. There's lots of really cool features that you get out of it. So yeah, I think that coding with AI is really important. It's the way that I'm going plan on doing this for a long time into the future, maybe forever. um, and it definitely makes me more productive. I can certainly, I fall into the trap of spending more time trying to get the AI to do something than it would take me to do myself. But for me, I feel like that's just another skill that I need to learn, which is exciting too.
Yeah. Awesome. So yeah, I guess I'd see how I could dial up my AI dosage, because as of now I'm more like, okay, VS Code, no AI. Then if I get stuck and I just need to, like, some code, I just go to Claude on the web. But definitely. So on the topic of AI augmenting, like, what we do as builders, even as software engineers, where do you draw the line? Because I sort of like have this idea in my head, like, especially if you're less experienced, if you sort of adopt AI really quickly for like writing code, it sort of, I feel it might impair mastery a little bit, especially when it comes to understanding the things you write. And um so I don't know if it's a right line of thought, but I just think, like, because I think in psychology, if I could tell the AI to write me, because I tried this the other day. So TQYT, I I wanted to append the a string TQYT number 1 or number 2 for all the sessions, and I would have done that manually, but I wanted to write like a JavaScript script to just crawl the mark down, the JSON, and just do that. And I was gonna write it by hand, but then I have to look up a couple of the APIs, like for file system for Node and all. And then I asked Claude on the web to just write it, and it did. The first time it worked, but I had to do like a little trick to get it to get the date order right, because it just looked at it sequentially. And after that, I didn't. So I understood the code, but not as if I have written it myself. So I
Hmm.
feel at that point now it's like a trade-off. Do I want to understand? Is it helpful for me to understand this code, or I've done the work and I could just move on to something? So I don't know, how do you draw the line between like fast work, like I call it, and like you're practicing this skill to get mastery so you could transfer the knowledge and to look at something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if we take a step back to
Mhm.
try and understand what our goals are, um, my like I want to be a master at what I do, for sure. But the reason that I want to be a master at what I do is so that I can do many great things. I can accomplish awesome things and build awesome user experiences and ultimately make enough money to pay for my family and everything. Um, so maybe it's not a big deal if you aren't a master at how to use the Node file system API.
Mhm.
Like maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe it's okay to not have mastery in that and just to move on. And if it is important, then it's probably important because you're going to do it a lot. And even if the AI does a lot of things for you, eventually like that will sink in and you will need AI less, but you'll probably use it more because like the further we go along, the more the AI is relevant anyway. But um, I'm not too concerned about like even a junior developer with very little mastery being able to do things that only the masters could do years ago. And so yeah, where do I draw the line? Um, I draw the line at good user experiences and positive outcomes. And as long as we're not harming anybody to get there, then I say whatever you need to do to make that happen is good enough for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's solid, because I think it makes sense. I definitely like that advice, because again, at a high level, it doesn't do me any good to be master of the Node file system API, but what I could build, high level, the software I could build and the courses I could make, that's more like my goal. And the more I use it, even though I'm using AI to augment it, because reputation breeds retention, I definitely, some of it will stick over time, and I think that it's okay. So yeah, thanks. I like that. So
Hmm.
let's see. I think those are the only AI questions that I have, and I think we're good. So we're gonna do the audio before the audience question. Finally, like, do you have a stat? So for your long time being an educator, did you there a stat like just a ballpark figure for both, like how much you made and how many the number of developers that have like been educated by you?
Hmm.
Ballpark, ballpark.
Yeah. So, you mean like how much money I've made over the years?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It's definitely several million over the years that I've made through education. Um, exact figure I couldn't tell you, but I can say like EpicReact V1 was just massive for me and my partner company and all of the employees who work for them. It made us millions of dollars by itself. V2 is also doing very well, not as well as V1. I think a lot of that is because of the ripple effects from COVID. We launched a V1 in 2020 when everybody had all of their training budget left over for the year, and they were trying to retool and upskill, and tech was going insane. So V2 isn't doing as well as V1 did, but it's still like doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales since I launched it last week. So education, like if you put in the amount of time and effort that I have, then it can be very, very rewarding. And it takes a long time to develop that kind of audience where you can see those kinds of numbers. But and also my courses are very expensive and very high quality, and so it's also like everybody has the different audience that they're looking for and catering to and everything. But yeah, for me, it's professionals who want to get really, really good at what they're doing. So anyway, that's the money side of things. As far as the number of people, we've had over 30,000 developers go buy licenses to EpicReact V1. Testing JavaScript, I think, is probably like I actually don't know. It's probably somewhere closer to 15,000 people have bought testingjavascript.com. Epic Web was launched last year. Has a smaller appeal, I think, or it just hasn't been as popular. But probably like 10,000, maybe 8,000 people have gone through that. And then, of course, I have my free stuff that I publish on my blog and stuff, and that's easily 500,000 people, probably much more, have read at least one. In fact, actually, I do track that, though it's imperfect. But I will identify users based on whether they're logged in and things. And so, if I look at my homepage, I have says I have 200 blog posts read 826,000 times by 628,000 people. And I started tracking that in 2021, like at the end of 2021. So yeah, easily over 500,000 people have read my blog and watched my talks and different things like that.
Superb. I think what you've done is like the dream for educators, because it's just amazing how you could do this. But the money is all good, but people that are definitely being educated by you is also amazing as well. Love it on both ends. It's amazing. So before the audience question, I want to do you want to tell us a little bit about Epic React V2, including the rap video? Like what what do I expect as a React developer when I come take V2?
Yeah,
Mm,
so V2 improves hugely on V1,
mm.
which already like so many people got promotions because of what they learned in V1 or made their apps better and faster, and that's why they got the promotion. A lot of people said that they had the confidence to go off and start their own freelance business because of that, the skills there. And so what V2 does is a couple of things. First, it modernizes it for the ecosystem, because the ecosystem's changed in the last 4 years. So now everybody's using TypeScript, and so it's 100% TypeScript. with some notable exceptions, but yeah, for all intents and purposes, 100% TypeScript. It also is React 19 and vanilla React stuff too. So it's just focused on getting you really good at React, regardless of what meta framework you're using, or if you're using a meta framework at all. Like if you want to learn how to actually build an application with React, then that's what Epic Web is all about. We build a full stack app with React. But to learn and understand React itself, that's what EpicReact is all about. Yeah, so modernizing the ecosystem and the material, it's all React 19. So there's in V1, the React suspense workshop was all experimental because that's the status of suspense at the time. With V2, that workshop has been formalized and it's not experimental, and it's very key to understanding even some of the performance optimizations that we do in the performance workshop and some of the patterns that we do in the patterns workshop. And then there's a new workshop about React server components, which are technically still experimental as far as React is concerned, but are very close to release. So React server components and server functions and actions are all covered there. And that's where we build our own framework out of server components, which is super cool. And then let's see, for people who have never touched React at all, we have the best introduction to React that you could possibly get. A lot of people, even experienced engineers. In fact, just today, somebody, Ashley Ryan, posted on X that she's been using React for 10 years and is learning a ton from EpicReact. And so, yeah, you can expect to learn a lot. You can also expect it to take a long time to get through. If you give it the time that you should, it should take months to get through everything. Even if you're doing it every week for like 4 to 8 hours a week, it should take you months to get through everything. Some people like Ashley, she started, I gave her early access. And so she started just a few weeks ago. I think she skipped a bunch of the early workshops and jumped straight to toward the end. But it took her weeks to get through just a few of the last workshops as well. So it's a lot. And actually, I'm in talks with a university and another college on adding it as part of the core curriculum for their web development courses. So it is like university level curriculum that you're getting out of this stuff too. So yeah, you should also expect to spend a lot of time at the keyboard rather than just sitting and watching videos. It's a very interactive experience there. And so much of what the workshop app is to facilitate doing that easily and avoiding a bunch of context switching. Yeah, and then every workshop has its own theme song, so you can expect to find it's the theme song for each workshop as you get started on that. And they all have dad jokes because at the end of each exercise, having some humor and levity as a part of the process actually helps you retain the information better. So even the stuff that feels like nonsense is actually very intentional as well. And like the videos themselves are all very packed full of information. There's not a lot of fluff, or there's no fluff in the exercises and things as well. So that's what you can expect.
Oh, that's a lot, and I feel there's a lot of thought and love that has gone into it. So I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna put the link to it in the show on YouTube and also on all the podcast platform.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much. Yeah, sure, for sure. So we have. Okay, I still do have one more question. Okay, this one I have to ask this one because I made a tweet and I was like, you and Aaron Francis are two of the most positive people I know on tech Twitter. No matter what's happening, you always find a way to be positive and you not get sucked into the cesspool of the tech drama because, of course, it is tech. Especially tech on X is it's like a war zone sometimes, right? With the dualities, this versus that. Like, how do you manage to like stay out of all that? Just the cesspool of social media, and just keep positive, like keep putting out a lot of love, like I call it, every time.
Mhm. Well, I am a religious person, and I try to follow the example of Jesus Christ, as recorded in the Bible and the Book of Mormon. And it that I just think like, what would Jesus do in this situation? And I try to do that. And I'm not perfect at that at all. I do sometimes find myself in the middle of some tech drama and things, and that can be unfortunate. And I have to walk it back and say sorry or whatever. But for the most part, I find that. Like even if you're a selfish person, you should probably be nice still, because life is better for you if you're nice to other people. Um, and so yeah, I don't know. I just that yeah, I guess that's my answer.
Yeah, I definitely I like that answer. I would have a ton to learn. Like, so from what you said, I think after I made that tweet about you and Aaron Francis being the most positive people, I was just thinking, um, and I think I saw something. Yeah, so a gospel artist that I know, his name is Mike Burrell. So I was watching an interview he did 4 years ago, and it was mostly talking about like keyboard, because we keyboard players sometimes we just have like it's the same thing with software. Like, right, I like writing on VS Code, you like using Vim, and they say, oh well. So just the keyboard could be like a topic to be hot on Instagram or anywhere else. And it was saying like, instead of telling me about the things you don't like, how about you tell me about the things you do like and just leave it at that? And I
Hmm.
was like, this is interesting. I think this is a new approach to take. So instead of be like, okay, I don't like this, I just say that I like this, and this is why I
Hmm.
like it. Do with it what you may. There's no hate. It's just this is what I use, and it's. I feel it's more in the good and healthy direction, because online, I have done it a lot of times as well, where we just be like, I don't like this, and the thing is, the cesspool of social media sort of like those kind of posts, because for some reason it's actually do well, but if I'm gonna think what will Kent do, I probably want to lean towards that direction and just like, more positive and less tech drama and all the negative stuff.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
It's a nice way to live. It really is.
yeah, yeah. I agree. So yeah, audience question, then we get to rapid fire questions and we're done. This has been amazing. I've learned a lot of tech, Kent the entrepreneur, and it's amazing. So much. So this is from Atem on X. He said, "Have you considered other business models?" I think we've touched on it a little bit, but now I would have to phrase it like, "Will you consider other business models in the future aside education?" Yeah.
So I do want to build products that people can use. But mostly so that I can validate ideas and things and stay current. I have a bunch of ideas for different products that I could build, or like things that I have for myself that I can make generally available to people. Um, and those things will probably still be related to education, because I will like make them open source, and I will use them as a basis for workshops and different things like that. Because I just really enjoy teaching people. Another thing that I've thought about doing is formalizing the workshop app that I've put together, and potentially even partnering with Skill Recordings crew to like sell the course platform as something that people can use themselves. And maybe I'd do some trainings on how to use it effectively and stuff, but like turn that into a product. That could be something that might be interesting. It's still kind of related to education, but outside of that, no, I'm pretty much just enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that would be great too, because I think you've spent a lot of time working on the platform, and I think it should definitely be good for people to just use off the shelf, especially for workshops. So I think that should be something that I think I've heard this idea before from Kitse. He also does a lot of workshop, and I think he has similar ideas of like, okay, I think I should open source mine, or not, like make it open so that others could use it as well. So there's
Mm,
definitely a market for like workshop that are tailored to developers. So I will be
yeah.
looking out for what you do.
Ultimately, my goal, as stated on my homepage, is to make the world a better place through quality software.
Mhm.
And I want to do that in the most impactful way possible. And until there's a way for me to do it more impactfully than I do now, I'm going to just keep doing what I'm doing now.
Love it, love it. So the second user question is okay. This is more like balance. So how do you balance your work as a developer, educator, and open source contributor? What is the lesson you've learned in your career that you wish you had known earlier?
Okay, so for the first question,
Mhm.
I, uh, um, yeah, balancing things. I don't really think too much about it. I do a lot of open source, but pretty much now the only open source that I do is stuff that is relevant to what I'm working on. I don't do a whole lot of open source that is exclusively to help other people, because I just don't have the bandwidth for that. And so, yes, I do a lot of open source, but it's also kind of self-serving. I need this, and so I'll do it, and it's easier for me to do it in the open source world. Um, as my work as a developer that like directly ties to the work that I'm, the product that I'm selling to people, which is this education platform. And so, yeah, it's not so much a balance as it is just like, this is what needs to get done today. So I don't know. I don't really, I'm not sure that there's a good answer to that question. As far as the second question, what was the second question again?
Yeah, like what's the lesson you've learned
Hmm.
in your career that you wish you had known earlier?
Yeah, I think, hmm. Yeah, I remember seeing this question and thinking, I don't know what I'm going to say about that. I like one of the most important things I think people can do is to be a nice person, to be kind to other people, or like put a different way, to be the kind of person that other people want to work with. Because if people don't want to work with you, then you can only do so much on your own, and so you're just going to miss out on opportunities for doing things that require more than just you. Um, and so like you're not going to be the one that's going to take us to Mars or whatever. Like if people don't like working with you, then you're just going to miss out on those opportunities. And so yeah, be the kind of person that people want to work with. I'm not sure that like I've not really ever been a mean person, so that's not a lesson that I learned late in my career or anything. It's just something that I've learned to value more over time. And then I guess the other thing is that your relationships matter. It's really important to work really hard and everything. I definitely worked really hard. But if you get to the end of it and then you turn around and there's nobody there, then like why did you work so hard? Like what who do you have to share your wealth with, or your, that now that you've made it, if there's nobody there with you, then like why did you make it? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I would say emphasize your relationships, and where you can find the time, work on your career.
I love it. The last part, now that you've made it, if there's no one there with you, why did you make it? It's really, really deep. Thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that, Ken. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's all the questions. But now the books, movies, podcast session where you get to tell me three of your favorites in these, and then we'll wrap it up. So I always like starting with books because I love reading. I just finished Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. Cal Newport today. Awesome book. So what are your three favorite books?
Oh man. All right. Let's say the Book of Mormon, the Bible, and no, just those religious texts are very important to me, but I'm not sure that's what the audience is looking for. Those are kind of obvious answers. So honestly, anything by Brandon Sanderson is my favorite. So I'll say Stormlight Archive series. We'll just pick the first book is called The Way of Kings. Fantastic series of books, and the 5th book is coming out very soon. I'm so excited about that. He also wrote the Mistborn series, so the first book is The Final Empire. Just awesome, awesome book. And then like a non-Brandon Sanderson book. Let me think. I'm just looking at the books that I have. I don't actually read books, by the way. I just listen to them because I
Oh,
can't.
okay.
I fall asleep if I'm trying to read them. So let me just look at my Audible here really quick and see what I have listened to recently that I just really want to call out. I'm seeing like all these books that I got from my kids. Okay, let's see.
Yeah,
Oh, you
hey
know what?
dad.
This book is very relevant to our listeners. It's called The Perennial Seller by Ryan Holiday. Um, that was a very interesting listen. It was a 7-hour listen. Yeah, just phenomenal book on how to make something that actually has a lasting impact and also like lasting sales. So, Perennial Seller is my third book.
So awesome, definitely. So do you see movies since you don't like reading
Yeah,
that
I watch
much?
movies.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Let's see.
Top 3.
Oh man, honestly, I don't. So, I thought of one for just a sec. Oh, um, Walter Mitty. What is that called? The is it just called Walter Mitty?
I
Uh,
don't think I've seen it though.
it's based on a story called The Odd Life of Walter Mitty or something. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. That's what it's called. That with Ben Stiller, really really great great movie. I like that one a lot. Just amazing cinematography and story and everything's really good. Let's see, big fan of Lord of the Rings. That, yeah, always a,
Yeah,
yeah, classic.
yeah, it's
um and 3, I don't
mm.
know, when I was a kid I really liked the movie Radio. So I'll pick that one. That's a good one.
Oh, awesome. I haven't seen the first one though. Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I will definitely go check it out.
Yeah, it's a
So
good one.
lastly, podcast. I know you are a big Darknet Diaries listener. I myself. So now we top 2 because we already have that one.
Yeah, Darknet Diaries is definitely going to be a top, and I won't pick
Mhm,
my own podcasts. I have the Chats with Kent and the Call Kent podcast.
mhm,
Um, so I also listen to Syntax FM. That one's really good. And
yeah,
then one that not many people know about is Soft Skills Engineering. This is Jameson Dance and
mm,
Dave Smith. Just really really great advice. They take 2 questions a week that are like the business side of being a software developer, just like working with people and managers and whatever, the career side. And they just have such a wealth of experience and share really great advice. So that's a good one. Soft Skills Engineering.
awesome. Thank you so much. So finally, this has been an epic session, pun intended. um, any piece of wisdom to our listeners on, because people listen to this podcast, they want to build businesses or they are building businesses, and like what would you say to them, like the take home after listening to this?
um, yeah, I guess I would say you building something that lasts takes a really long time. And like if you want 15 minutes of fame, that's not very difficult. You could probably do something, work on a video or something in a week and get 15 minutes of fame that could go viral on TikTok or whatever. But you're like building something that actually lasts is going to take a really long amount of time and effort and working on building a community around it and everything. It just takes a lot of work. So don't be afraid of the work. Just put the work in. Make sure to reduce your risk. And so sometimes this means that you've got to like shelf something for a little bit to so that you can work up a savings or something. But but don't be discouraged if it takes more than a couple months to get anybody to care about what you're doing. Because even I, at the point that I'm at with the followers I have and everything, I still have to beg people to care about the stuff that I create. So that will never go away. And so even if you're like out there sharing stuff and nobody seems to care, just remember that even I sometimes feel that way too. It never goes away, and it's fine.
And it's fine. Thank you so much, Ken. This was an epic session. Thank you for being here. And thank you for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you putting these things together. These chats are really useful for people, I think.
Yeah.